Okay, so quickly, my two VMs are ready. And what I did was pretty standard. I booted both of the VMs, and on the web server, I installed a very basic web server to be used for testing and simulation here. It's a very basic, very standard, quite useful really, web server for training and demonstration. So I installed it, and my the installation here is ready. I also disabled the local Windows Defender firewall, not to interfere with my operation. For the second VM, all I'm gonna do is to create a shared folder. Let's create like two shared folder. Let's create it, for example, user one. This will be the shared folder for the first user. And of course, you need to have what to do. So let's create two users to simulate like the IT or whoever gonna be using these shares. So these are all you could use. I'm not using Active Directory or anything in this demonstration. Of course, in reality, in real operation, you would be having an Active Directory, but I don't want to add more complex information for this session. In the final training and in the actual training for this cloud operation, there will be full installation of all of the aspects and real some real operation. For example, in the real training, we will be using Active Directory, and we'll be using an Exchange for actual email service providing. So, but in this session here, just a demonstration quickly to show how quickly this is done. So let's create new users. So this one will be user one. Easy password. That's why I didn't use Windows Server. They choose complex password. So this is the first user. Create the second user. Easy. So two users created here. Okay, let's get anything, whatever. Nothing really here, so we create dummy files just to simulate. So for user one, let's create a text document and user one file. That's nice. And for user two file. That's nice. Now let's share these folders correctly. So for the user one folder, you're gonna be sharing it only with user one. This is like giving it a specific authentication here and authorization. So only user one can access the server. Also, the administrator of the machine can actually, of course, action, but not the other user. And he has only read privilege. He cannot change. I can give it actually read and write. It's his own folder. He can manipulate the folder as he wish. So click share. Same for user two. This one will be user two on private share folder, and click on share. So user one cannot access user two, and vice versa. They are separate from the user. Only admins can actually log in. So the share here is complete. Now we need to test to see if the web server is responsive and can actually respond to the request, and the share folder if it's really. Let's start with the web server. And for the web server, currently it has a public IP on one single interface, this one. The web server is not yet, I didn't implement the secure connection. It's only running plain on port 80 without SSL. This is just for testing. Of course, an SSL certificate need to be installed and properly configured in order to have a secure communication with the web server. That's essential, but I'm not gonna do it in this demonstration. I'm just letting you know. It's a standard procedure to actually do an SSL, but right now this is just a connectivity presentation. So we go on and try to open up non-SSL connection with the server. This is the IP. Yes. Okay, one thing you need to take a look on is the local firewall of Azure on the web server. Go to network. And as you can see, this section here handles the local firewall. This is not Fortigate. This is not anything additional. This is an integrated layer 3-4 firewall provided by Azure itself to provide protection connectivity to your VM. And right now, the only allowed port is a remote port. So there is no connectivity to the web server. The web server requires port 80, so we need to add port 80 to the allowed incoming ports. Source anyone can connect. Destination any, you can add in the IP, but it's not really needed. So in the template, there is already HTTP on 80, as you can see, and allow, and the name and the number line of policy. This is an integrated firewall, basic firewall that's provided by Azure. So you can specify which allowed port to communicate with it. It's like a layer of security, a really useful layer of security. But it is not a next generation or a deep scan kind of firewall. It's a basic firewall, very basic firewall, by port numbers and source destinations. So port 80 now is available. Go back to the page, reload. I should be presented with the default web server page. And here we go. Welcome to my easygoing Abius web server. It's a really good server, by the way, for a low budget, standard entry-level web server. You can actually, it has really many. I'm not promoting it. I'm not affiliated with it, but it's really good for anyone who wants to run quick web server on Windows. And it has really good options. It supports multiple features. It supports programming languages and like PHP and others. It's really good starting point for a web application. So my web application is now available online. However, this is through the default IP. This is not, we are not going to use this, but I'm going to tell you exactly what we're going to do. Let's check. Okay, there is no need to check for the other. I've already checked connectivity, so I think we are good to go. So what do we need to do now? What we need to do now is quite tricky. What we need to do that right now we are connecting to our servers externally through a port or directly connected to the internet through Azure. Right now I need to connect my servers back to back to the Fortigate. I need them to be connected to the Fortigate, not to the internet. I'm gonna leave the port over the internet, this one, if I go back to my virtual machine, the web server, and check the network interfaces. I should only see one adapter, one virtual adapter, this one. And this one is connected directly to Azure and it's not related to the Fortigate. So right now I need to connect a port to the Fortigate. The thing is, I need this port active all the time so I can be able to remote connect to this VM. So a safer and faster way to do it is to actually keep this one alive and connect to it. Of course, there are other ways to handle the VM under Azure, but for now, I'm using this one as an easy way because this is like the easiest way to do it. I'm gonna keep this one active, and this one is like for administrators only to log into the server remotely without passing through the firewall. So what I'm going to do right now is that I'm gonna add additional network interfaces to my VMs. And the additional VM will be like a local port connecting to the Fortigate only, like this port. This will be like port 2 connected to Fortigate. I'm gonna place it in the same network zoom, and I'm gonna place it in the same network subnet, and these two should be able to communicate with each other. And the Fortigate and same for the second server. So these two here will be able to communicate directly through my LAN port over the Fortigate. This is my plan. So I can move on to my protection over my servers from the Fortigate. So this is exactly what I'm gonna do. I have now port 2 here, which is representing the LAN side. Port 1 is the internet side. So let's give it some names so we don't forget. So this port here is my WAN port, and it has this one, and it's allowing me to access the web, the administration interface and everything. And let's give it a name. So this one will be the WAN port, and this one I'm using to connect to this web interface. And click OK. The other port here, which is the LAN port, defining, it will be here, and I'm gonna call it LAN. And I don't want this port. For example, you don't really need this port to be available for HBS. I'm just gonna keep it, but in reality, you don't want this port to be allowing anyone to access the web interface of the Fortigate. So probably you're gonna need to disable this and maybe keep the ping for testing. This is the proper way to do it. And as you can see here, this port was created with a comment of internal. So this is like better here. So click OK. So the LAN port in this range 10.100 something is the one should be facing my server. So I'm gonna put my servers in the same network zone and the same network subnet. That's exactly what I'm gonna do right now. So let's do it. In order to do so, I have to turn down my 2 VMs, so they need to be shut down. So I'm gonna stop it for the web server, and I'm gonna stop the shutting down both of my virtual machine. And let's start with the web server. And I'm going to show you quickly how to create virtual interfaces for these ones and make them connected to my Fortigate. Again, the details are not really in deep detailing mode. This is just a demonstration session to show you how it's done. However, in the next opportunity, if you'd like to join a very detailed training for how to work with Azure and all of the stuff, we provide this through Think Tank. Always remember this. So going up to here, I'm waiting for they stop. I think they are stopped for the virtual machine web server. Go to the networking part. And now I need to create a new port. So attach and create a new port. So same data stores folder. You have to be stick to the same location. You cannot create a port in a different location. And you have to keep it here. So I'm gonna call it web server LAN. He is automatically placing it in the same zone of the network. Now I need to be precise here and tell it to place it on the LAN side, because this is the side I need my servers to be placed. I need it placed here, so I need to place it in the same network zone, same network subnet. This is essential. Now here he wants to place his standard firewall, his own standard firewall, not the Fortigate, on this new interface. I don't need it, so I'm actually gonna remove Azure firewall on this one. Why? Because it's pretty simple. This interface I'm planning to implement is gonna be actually behind a firewall, so there is no need for Azure firewall here. I'm gonna remove it. So Fortigate will be my firewall. there is no need to use Azure firewalls. The other one, which I'm connected to over the internet, I am leaving the firewall because this one is facing the internet, so at least I have some sort of protection here. So I'm gonna keep it here, LAN. And he's asking me for what IP I should be using. This is irrelevant. You can type in static IP if you like. And this one will be given by DHCP to the... Let me see the IP of my Fortigate. My Fortigate is 10.100.04. So let's give this one 100 and the other server 200. Yeah, to make it easy. By the way, this interface, I'm not giving it a public IP. It shouldn't have any public IP. It should not be accessible over the internet. This is just a local IP. And click create. I'm gonna do the same for the other server. So this one takes its time to create. Share LAN. Select the proper subnet, no local firewall. And place this one like 1000. No need for IP version 6. And click create. Going back to the web server. Let's see if it's created. Now we need to attach. Waiting for it. Here it is. This virtual machine has limit to only 2 virtual interfaces. So web server LAN is created, and as you can see, there is no local firewall. In the other port, which I connect over the internet, there is a security firewall. Here, doesn't have those. So this one is 10.100.100. And right now, it is attached and ready for operation. So let's turn on the virtual machine. For the other one, exactly the same. Networking. I don't see it yet. Okay, see it now. As you can see, this one here is created. Azure DHCP will give the VM this IP, the one I told you about. It will keep it, even though the VM is requesting DHCP, it will always be given this one. No local firewall. This port here has this firewall, so this is ready. Okay, as long as I'm here, the Fortigate one, as we mentioned, has 2 ports. This one facing the internet, and this one here. This one is running a local firewall. I'm actually gonna remove it because I don't need a local firewall over my port. So I need to remove this one, which is the security extension here. I need to remove it. Let's see where we can remove it. Virtual network, subnetwork, accelerated networking, no. So this one is Fortigate 1 NIC2. I have to search, probably I need to search for it. So these are my old interfaces. Here's one. So Fortigate 1 NIC2. Here is this one. So let's see. Network security group. It's currently in this one, and I'm gonna remove it. The reason I'm removing this because this is a firewall. I don't need a local firewall placed on its port. It's already a firewall, so there is no need for it. So going back to Fortigate 1. And on the other port, which is facing the LAN side, I have removed the local firewall. Removing the firewall means all communication, TCP, UDP, and ICMP is now passing through without restrictions over Azure itself. So in virtual machines, let's go back, share, let's turn it on. It is now turning on. This one here is ready, and right now it has the new port. Let's check it. So going back into, what was the IP? Log it into what's supposed to be the web share. Sorry, the web server. And now you will notice that there have been a new network interface. As you can see, there have been two now. This is the second one. Not to forget which is which. You can always do a rename. So this one like internet, and this one behind Fortigate. And as you can see, if you double click on it, it is giving the IP I told it to give, and there is no gateway, as you can see. It is not used for internet connectivity. This one is the one used. I'm doing this so I don't lose connectivity with this one. Let's see if ping is actually working with my system here. Let me go back to my Fortigate. So let's say my Fortigate, if he can actually ping my first server, which is this one. As you can see, I have a reply. What about the other server? Another reply. So right now communication is valid between these two. So what's the next step? Right now I have connected my two servers are now connected behind the firewall. They have this interface connected. Now I need to work on the firewall itself by making policy to allow connectivity to these two and make sure everything is ready for port numbers between these two and the others. This would be the next section. It's continuously a network operations section, and it will be our last technical section in this session, and then we will check overall how this can actually be placed correctly. So let's move on to the next section of this presentation.